I'm at the iconic Sydney Cricket Ground, and this is the Walk of Honour. Generally the Walk of Honour is started with the Steve Waugh statue, but for me, as a kid, obviously, who aspired to be a cricketer, this is where my dreams, my hopes, and my inspirations initially came from. My first ever cricket match was the World Cup at Eden Gardens between New Zealand and Australia. No, not the Steve Waugh's Australia, but the Belinda Clark's Australia and Debbie Hockley's New Zealand team. Belinda Clark, probably known as a legend to many, unlike, of course, the MCG Sports Museum, because Belinda Clark might be the first person to score a 200, a double hundred in the international cricket. Yes, and when I say international cricket, it men's and women's included. But I think that's not good enough for even the Australian cricket to give her a golden plaque in the MCG Museum. But here we have her statue at the Walk of Honour, and one of her favorite shots. I think Belinda Clark in many ways defined the women's game. She defined the guts, the instinct, and how a batter can change games in women's cricket. In cricket as a whole, but in women's cricket particularly, because in women's cricket you have very few icons to look up to, especially when I was growing up. From one icon to another who has denied India many victories, Belinda Clark has done so, and so has Steve Waugh. This is a typical Steve Waugh statue, and I'll tell you why it's typical Steve Waugh pose, because that's how he used to celebrate every time after scoring 100. But the significant part, if Ogni, again, thank you for holding the camera, but the significant for me is this baggy green, and I'll tell you why. So I love reading. By now, people, you guys know that. I was reading the Shane Warne autobiography. In that, when Shane Warne talks about the misunderstandings and a bit of, conversations that he used to have with Steve Waugh, he has actually written, I don't understand what is this obsession that Steve Waugh has with the baggy green. It seems like baggy green for Steve Waugh was more than his life. The baggy green that he's standing here with. What an honor to stand here. Now, Agni, if we can come and let's walk through this beautifully designed Walk of Honour. So, this monument basically marks, this Walk of Honour was officially opened on 4th of January 2001. Let's see some of the legendary, names that you will see. No points for guessing that the first name that we come to is none other than Sir Donald Bradman. The 99.94 test average, the world record of 452 not out, that was here in SCG itself. From Donald Bradman, we slowly move forward to Betty Cuthbert. What's lovely here is, as we go through the Walk of Honour, you will see it's not only cricketers who have got a place in the Walk of Honour. You will see other athletes as well. For example, Betty, she was an Olympic runner, and at the age of 18, she had won gold medals in 100 meter, 200 meter, and 4 into 100 meter relay. From Betty, we quickly move to the other end, because as I said, the Walk of Honour is at both the ends. There's Reg Gasnier. He was one of the finest in the Australian Rugby League. As I just said, it's not about cricket alone here, because at times it happens to everyone. We forget celebrating other sports, but of course, we have Joe Marston here, first Australian soccer player. And then we quickly cross over and we can see Arthur Morris. Arthur Morris was the world's leading opening batter and is among one of the Australia's best In one of the matches, in fact, Arthur had scored a century even before lunch. Here we have got the Ella brothers. In the rugby union world, their name came to signify excellence. From there to a very famous name, a name that we all know, a player that we have known as one of the topmost all-rounders forever, none other than Keith Miller. He used to bowl fast, he used to score fast, and of course, he there in the Walk of Honor. Now slowly we'll move on from Keith Miller to another Keith Holman. In the 32 tests he played from 1950 to 1958. And from Keith Holman, we again go to another fantastic opening batter, none other than Bob Simpson. As you can see, now we'll move on and we'll go to a different sport. There you go, Clive Churchill. He was small in size, and just see what he used to be called. He was Australia's own little master. Different sport, same name. From there to someone who's known to be omnipresent in every single match that is played not only in Sydney, in most other grounds, none other than Victor Trumper. He was officially Australia's first superstar. From there, we move on. There's the statue of Revsportz. This is so beautifully done, and everyone coming in can, just take this walk, takes you back to a lot of memories. John Rapper, one of the finest rugby league players. And as we continue the walk, it's a little, of course, it's over almost 500 meters, 600 meters. Colwindon. From Colwindon, we move on to, and the interesting part is, before we talk about Richie Benaud, as you can see, that's the practice nets. It's so beautiful that here, under a beautiful palm tree, we have got Richie Benaud. He was definitely Australia's finest all-rounders, but I think growing up, we have heard more stories about his commentary than probably him as a player. And one that I heard, one that was reminded to me by Ogni today morning, when Graham Hick faced his first delivery, and the ball, of course, went past, or rather whizzed past his ears. Richie Benaud said, "Welcome to Test cricket." Here we have got Trevor Allen, Australian Rugby Union's outstanding player, a masterful centre with complete range, strong defence, safe hands, sharpness in attack. He was barely 21 when he became Australia's captain. Allen switched to rugby league in 1950. The best part, as I said, for me, the best part and the outstanding part of this Walk of Honor as we come towards the end is, before ending, I'll show you two, three more. But the best part has been, it is not about cricket alone. There has been cricket, there is soccer, there is rugby, there's runners who have been attributed, and their achievements have been noted. John White, Cyril Towers. We have got Australia's John Warren, and who hasn't heard of John Warren, or who doesn't know John Warren? He was Australian soccer's most visible face, And he was not only one of the leading players, but later on he became a journalist, a broadcaster. And Sydney, he joined the Socceroos in 1964 and captained them for 6 years. Well, I'm at the end of my walk through the Walk of Honor, and let's end it here with Billy Brown. He was a heavy scoring Australian, and he led Australia for one test against New Zealand. But I think Billy Brown's what people most know about Billy Brown is, of course, the fact that he was an invincible. He was an invincible because he was a member of the 1948 famous team that was known as Invincibles. And Sydney Cricket Ground was his home ground. What a brilliant 10 minutes I had, from the Belinda Clark statue to the Bill Brown. It's a place where you want to be at least once in your lifetime, A bucket list ticked for me, and for all of you sitting at home. A bucket list ticked for all of you, I hope, because you took the journey along with me. Keep taking the Australian journey along with Revsportz. And for that, you have to, by the way, subscribe and press the notification bell. Do join us.